I know this is weird, but I first crossed paths with my husband, Matt, because of his brother, Jack, who I used to have a small, harmless crush on back when the three of us went to the same college. Jack was 1 year older than me, and we had mutual friends. Jack had a reputation for being a playboy, and I did not want to be one of his conquests, so even though I had a bit of a crush, I never pursued him. However, once my college best friend found out about my crush, she would often tease me about this. And this is how all our mutual friends eventually found out. I guess the word must have gotten around to Jack also because he would often try to flirt with me or be overly cozy around me whenever we would meet around others. He asked for my number and would text me about how I was girlfriend material and how any guy would be lucky to be with me. I was flattered, but I knew better than to believe him, so I kept my distance. According to him, he wanted to enjoy some carefree moments before committing to a serious relationship and settling down. He shared this sentiment not only with others, but also with me whenever he was drunk. I have always been a nerd my entire life, so even during college, I would spend most of my time in the library. Jack would try to come up with reasons to talk to me whenever I was cooped up in the library studying. On 2 occasions, he wrote me notes confessing his feelings. But then, when I would confront him about it, he would backtrack and apologize to me. I did not have a lot of experience, so I would not understand this back and forth. However, on my birthday, which is just a week before New Year's, he sent me a heartfelt message declaring his love for me and expressing a desire to pursue a serious relationship. I remember feeling stunned reading through his message and asking if he was really serious. Jack told me how he wanted to see me on New Year's so he could propose to me officially. One of our mutual friends was hosting a New Year's party, so we all were supposed to go there. Although Jack seemed sure about me this time, I was a bit hesitant if I would accept his proposal. I guess it's when you have a crush on a cute guy, but then once you slowly start to know him, you don't feel the same anymore. When I reached the party, I noticed that Jack had not come alone. His brother Matt had come along with him, and this was the first time Matt and I met each other. Matt seemed sweet and considerate, unlike his brother. He was shy and disliked attention, and we had a genuine connection right from the start. Overall, Matt seemed to be the complete opposite of Jack. Throughout the evening, Jack would deliberately avoid me, which I was completely fine with, but it did seem a bit odd since he had confessed his apparent love to me just a few days ago. I wanted to talk to him about how I was no longer interested in him, but Jack took care of the problem himself when I found him kissing one of our friends in the kitchen during the party. When Jack saw me standing, he immediately started to apologize to me, thinking I might be hurt by his actions. I asked him if we could talk for a bit, and he agreed. This is when I told him that it was best for us to date other people and that I no longer had a crush on him, so he should not apologize to me for kissing anyone. Jack protested and tried to blame me for the situation, saying how I had led him on, but I firmly told him that we were not committed to each other, and I never exclusively told him that I liked him. I also told him that he was free to think whatever he wanted and walked away. That was the last time I ever spoke to Jack regarding this matter. The next day after the party, I received a message from an unknown number who turned out to be Matt. He got my number from one of our friends, and this is how we got to know each other. Eventually, he asked me out on a date, and I agreed. I didn't want things to be weird with his brother later, so I told Matt everything that had happened between me and his brother. Matt seemed surprisingly cool with it and told me it's not a big deal. This is how we started going out and ended up falling for each other eventually. Matt is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. He is my best friend. He is everything to me, and I love him more than anything. Jack wasn't happy to see that I was dating his brother and was always cold towards me. I didn't let it bother me too much since I thought maybe he was just awkward. Throughout the years that Matt and I dated, Jack would always find a reason to come in between us. Like if we had bought tickets to a concert, he would invite himself, telling Matt about how he had always wanted to go to that particular concert also. Since Matt and Jack stayed together, we could never get a lot of privacy. Jack would always interrupt our movie nights and insist that the three of us should play board games or do something else where he would feel included. I started to resent him because of this and would tell Matt how weird I found this behavior. Throughout all of this, Jack was still sleeping with multiple girls, so we knew that it had nothing to do with me. When Matt and I took the next big steps and started having dinners with each other's families, Jack had a big brother talk with Matt where he basically told him that he should not get so serious with one girl and that there was plenty of fish out in the sea. Matt insisted that he was happy with me, and so was I, but Jack refused to believe that. He tried to convince Matt about how he was too young to commit and that he should try sleeping with other girls. When Matt told me all of this, I was pissed. It basically seemed like Jack was trying to convince Matt to cheat on me, which was so ridiculous since I trusted my boyfriend and I knew he would never do anything to hurt me. In the second year of our relationship, Matt and I moved in together because it was just more convenient for us. Jack did not like this at all and would try to convince Matt to let him move in with us. I firmly declined so that Jack started to tell all our mutual friends about how I was coming in between two brothers and I was trying to dictate his brother's life. Matt quickly shut him down, but Jack would always say things like this about me to bully me. Once, when a group of us had gone to a bowling alley after our exams were done, he knowingly spilled his drinks on me after everyone complimented me about my shirt. Later, when I was trying to clean the mess, Jack came to me and apologized, telling me that I should not be wearing revealing clothes around him. I found his behavior so odd and creepy that night that I even contemplated breaking up with Matt since I did not know how to deal with his brother. Matt and I had a serious talk and I told him how uncomfortable his brother was making me day by day. Matt admitted that Jack's behavior did seem odd to me, so after that day we stopped hanging out with him. If Matt wanted to meet his brother, they would have one-on-one hangouts, but I stopped going out to group gatherings if Jack was invited. Obviously, our friends group started noticing this pattern, and word must have gotten around to Jack because after a few weeks, he sent me a long message apologizing to me for everything he had done. He assured me that he is happy for his brother and me and won't ever do anything to jeopardize it. Since that day, he seemed to stay true to his word. He no longer made me feel uncomfortable anymore. When Matt and I got married, he gave his best man speech and mentioned a bit about how he used to have a bit of a crush on me back in college and how he sacrificed for his brother. Everyone laughed because they thought it was sweet, but I was a bit mortified. Matt didn't seem to mind, so I decided to let this slide also. We had a great time at our wedding in spite of this. When Jack hit 30, he started catching a lot of flack from the family for not tying the knot and settling down. His parents would always urge him to find someone serious and stop sleeping around, but Jack would just laugh it off. Matt confided in me that he did find it strange that his brother had never gotten into a serious relationship with anyone. According to Matt, his brother was a good-looking guy, well off, and had a fun personality, so it was a bit odd that he was still flying solo. Matt would always try his best to talk to Jack in an attempt to convince him to give up his wayward lifestyle and settle down for something more serious. 2 years ago, on my birthday, my husband surprised me with a small party with my close family members and friends. I generally don't like having big celebrations, so I was really happy with the number of guests. I was opening my presents in front of everyone when I came across a big box given to me by Jack. Jack immediately insisted I should open this later, so I agreed and moved on to the next gift. Later at night, Matt and I were cleaning up after everyone had left when I remembered Jack's gift. We sat down to open it when I was shocked to find a heart-shaped box filled with chocolates and a diamond necklace in the middle of it. Matt was taken aback as well, since the necklace clearly seemed expensive. He felt like it was the kind of gift you would give to a girlfriend, and I agreed. I told Matt that he was free to give back the necklace to his brother, but Matt told me that it might seem rude to do that since this was a gift. Although Matt tried to laugh it off, suggesting that his brother might have been clueless about what to give me since he was still a bachelor, I could sense a hint of concern in his expression. Wanting to avoid any unnecessary tension, I decided to put the necklace in my drawer and almost forgot about it. Last year, while cleaning my drawers, I rediscovered the necklace and started playing around with it. To my surprise, the necklace opened up, revealing a hidden compartment inside. I found a note with very small handwriting. Intrigued and somewhat apprehensive, I carefully unfolded the note and was stunned by its contents. It was undeniably Jack's handwriting, and the message was simple yet impactful. I love you. I felt like puking when I read it, as I was so disgusted by what Jack had written to me. That night, when my husband came back, I showed him everything. His initial reaction mirrored my own surprise, but he was pissed off at Jack for pulling such a stunt. Together, we contemplated how to address this revelation without causing further discord in the family. We called mother-in-law and father-in-law to talk about this. Father-in-law was stunned after hearing this, but what I found suspicious was mother-in-law's lack of reaction. She immediately went to defend Jack by saying how he could have written that in a platonic sense. Father-in-law snorted, sitting right next to her, and told her that regardless of whether it was romantic or platonic, this was clearly inappropriate. Matt was firm that he wanted to confront his brother about this, and father-in-law agreed. Mother-in-law tried to defend her baby boy, but the men didn't listen. We invited Jack to have lunch with us the next day since Matt wanted to talk to him face to face. During lunch, we gently brought up what he had written to me, and Matt took out the small note to confront his brother about it. I watched Jack's face flicker with worry and panic when he saw the note in Matt's hand before he tried to compose himself. I firmly told Jack that I found this very inappropriate and I could not let this slide any longer. Matt chimed in to question Jack if he perhaps had any feelings for me, since that seemed to be the only plausible explanation. Amidst his laughter, Jack explained that he had been seeing a woman named Anna for the past year, but had been keeping the relationship under wraps. He revealed that he had bought similar necklaces for both me and Anna and had written the note specifically for her. He confessed that he had no idea the necklace with the note had accidentally been given to me and assured us that he had no romantic feelings for me whatsoever. The revelation left us speechless, the tension in the air dissipating as we processed the unexpected turn of events. This did seem like a plausible explanation. Matt questioned him a bit more about this mysterious woman, and Jack showed us pictures of him and Anna. She was stunning, and he genuinely looked happy. I felt light and happy hearing that Jack had finally met someone he loved. Jack apologized to us profusely, sincerely for the confusion, and promised to be more careful in future. The three of us had a hearty laugh and never brought this matter up. Eventually, Jack got married to his girlfriend Anna. She seemed to be the perfect woman for him. Both were quite adventurous. Everything seemed to be going well for them, or so we thought. This year, we found out that Jack was caught talking to several girls on dating apps and cheating on his wife. But the wife wasn't innocent as well. She had also been sleeping with one of her co-workers. Both of them decided that they were clearly not right for each other, so they would be proceeding with a divorce. Jack moved in with mother-in-law and father-in-law and has been staying with them for the past 2 months. Now, whenever me and Matt go to visit my in-laws' place, Jack is always around. He was kicked out of his job since he has been depressed due to his divorce and sits in his room gaming the whole day. Matt has tried to talk to his brother and urged him to get another job, but it's fallen on deaf ears. Whenever I'm around, Jack shows extra attention to me and gets quite close to me while talking. At first, I didn't even notice this. For example, he was teaching me and Matt about one of his video games. He was learning to play the game when Matt received a very important call from work, so he excused himself. Jack sat down next to me trying to teach me. I was learning all the buttons when he put his over mine and told me how I should hold the controller. His touch lingered a bit longer than necessary. I felt a twinge of discomfort and immediately got up to find Matt. I asked my husband to take me back home, and he knew that something was wrong. On our way back home, I told him how Jack had held my hand, and Matt was furious. He wanted to confront his brother, but I told him that since Jack was living with our in-laws in the moment, he might get kicked out, and it would make things even more awkward or worse, that mother-in-law would not believe me and think that I was trying to stir up things unnecessarily. I decided that I wouldn't ever let my guard down near Jack ever again or be anywhere alone with him in order to protect myself. Recently, my husband was involved in an accident. He was driving to work when a truck collided with him from the back while changing lanes. When I got the call from the hospital, I almost fainted in shock since he was the love of my life and I thought I was really going to lose him. When the news reached my in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, they expressed genuine concern and rushed to the hospital as well. Jack was also surprisingly supportive, constantly checking in, offering assistance. My parents were worried about me and flew in to be there for me during this tough time. As my husband started to recover while still hospitalized, he was allowed one visitor at a time. I would visit with him every day, either reading him a chapter of his favorite book or playing his favorite song for him. I was so grateful that he was still with me and was fighting hard to be alive. Mother-in-law and father-in-law made regular visits expressing their care and concern for their son. However, a peculiar pattern emerged when Jack joined these visits. Instead of engaging with his brother, he would seem more inclined to direct his attention towards me. He would hug me or touch my cheeks incessantly, telling me how I should remain strong and that if something happened to his brother, he was there for me. I found it extremely uncomfortable and would immediately distance myself from him. Mother-in-law would make Jack stay with me, telling me how I should not be alone at the hospital and that I needed to be around someone. Eventually, over the weeks, my husband started to recover. The doctors were happy with his miraculous progress, and despite a fractured leg, he was going to be okay overall. My parents were so happy for me, and only after they talked with my husband and were assured by the doctors that my husband was out of the danger zone did they fly back to their place. I was grateful that my parents had taken the time to even be with me. I would spend my evenings with my husband while he was recovering. During one of the hospital visits, my husband made a light-hearted joke about how, if something were to happen to him, I could still have his brother since they both looked so similar. I suddenly went quiet. My husband also might have understood that he went a bit too far with his jokes because he immediately started to apologize. I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer, so I burst into tears. My husband leaned forward to comfort me despite his multiple bandages. He looked really concerned. I explained to him how I would never be with his brother since I never loved him. I told him how I was tired of people not taking me seriously. My husband's brow furrowed in confusion, and he asked me who else didn't take me seriously. And this is when I finally opened up about my suspicion. I told my husband I suspected that Jack never moved on from me and had continued to harbor some kind of feelings for me. I told him about how he would behave whenever he came over for hospital visits, and I also talked about how I had a lingering suspicion that mother-in-law was in on it as well, since she clearly adored Jack and was trying to turn a blind eye on his behavior. My husband, realizing the gravity of the situation, apologized sincerely. He told me that he had no idea that I had all these thoughts in my head. He told me how he had also long suspected that Jack harbored feelings for me, but he had given his brother the benefit of the doubt for quite some time. I hugged him as I wanted to feel his warmth around me. After a moment of reflection, my husband proposed a plan to teach both mother-in-law and Jack a lesson and find out if this was indeed true, since we didn't have any solid proof yet. He suggested I call his mother and ask for assistance with the medical bills. If she truly cared for both her sons equally, she would agree without hesitation. However, if she hesitated, made excuses, or imposed conditions, it might indicate that she was aware of some underlying issue. I agreed to the plan, and the next day I met mother-in-law in hospital cafeteria for lunch. I began discussing the overwhelming costs of the medical bills and expressing my concern. To my surprise, mother-in-law promptly offered to pay the bills with no hesitation. I felt a momentary sense of relief. However, her subsequent suggestion caught me off guard. She started to propose that I should move into their home until my husband recovered, emphasizing that I shouldn't go back to an empty house at such a vulnerable time. As she continued, she mentioned Jack was lonely as well and missed his brother, so I could perhaps give him some company. The discomfort and disgust I felt in that moment were palpable, but mother-in-law seemed oblivious to the implications of her words. She continued to say how I and Jack are so similar in certain ways and that we could work on our friendship during this time. I literally cringed in disgust while mother-in-law continued to say how if I wanted, I could perhaps get with Jack until my husband gets better and no one would be wiser. I got up from my seat and thanked her for her honesty, because now finally I had the proof I very much needed. Her entire demeanor changed and she asked me what was happening. This is when I told her that I was recording the entire conversation on my phone since I wanted my husband to hear this. I told her how I and Matt had come up with this plan in order to get to the bottom of this and how I had long since suspected that she knew her son Jack was interested in me. Mother-in-law tried to calm me down and tell me how, as a mother, she knows when her sons are in love and how Jack rightfully deserved me since he was in love with me first. I was shocked to hear her entitled reply and told her that I was going to tell father-in-law about this and make sure that Jack got kicked out of their house. Mother-in-law started to protest how falling in love is not a crime, but I just walked away. My husband is still recovering, so I'm worried about giving him such bad news. I don't know how bad he's going to take this. I don't want to mess up his health further by telling him how disgusting his mother and brother are. Mother-in-law has been sending me multiple messages about how I am trying to break up the family and how I need to just let it go, but I refuse to forgive her. Will I be an a-hole if I expose Jack and mother-in-law's plan all along to father-in-law? Update 1. My husband is getting better in the hospital, and I'm right here with him, reading comments on Reddit. It feels good that strangers understand what I've been through in the past few years. The comments remind me that I'm not alone and people get how complicated things are. This online support makes me more determined to deal with the family issues once my husband is out of the hospital and we're back home safely. The kind words from the online community have given me comfort and strength. I do plan on talking to my husband about everything, since I have never hidden anything from him. Whatever my husband decides to do, I'm okay with it. If he agrees with me that we should talk to his father, then I plan on exposing everything to father-in-law about his wife and Jack. To some of the Redditors who think perhaps I encouraged Jack to have feelings for me, shame on you. I was just in college when I had a teeny tiny crush on an older guy, just like every other freshman of my age. Jack was very outgoing even in college, and most girls were attracted to him because of that. But when I got to know him, I realized that he was not my type. I very respectfully let him know about my thoughts. I admit that I should not have fallen in love with his brother, but I did. This is all in the past and happened years ago, and we are adults now, so I should not be blamed for this. I love my husband, and I have always been upfront about my past. He knew right from the start my history with his brother, and he still pursued me, which I am glad he did, since he is everything to me. He is the guy I married, have stayed loyal with, and one day hopefully have kids with also. I would also like to clarify that we never actually had any issues paying the medical bill, since both Matt and I earn quite well and we have health insurance. We just came up with that plan to try and bait mother-in-law and see her reaction. Unfortunately for her, she fell hook, line, and sinker for that plan and exposed what I had long since suspected. Looking back, mother-in-law did push me a lot to be close to Jack and would even make him sit next to me all the time during family dinners. I have no idea what possessed her to even think I could agree to her plans, but I don't want to waste any time thinking about them. As a woman, I'm so disgusted and repulsed by her thoughts and actions that I can never feel safe around her ever again. Update 2. It's been 1.5 months since I last updated anything. It has taken me some time since I've been busy with my husband's recovery. I am happy to write that he is finally home and almost completely recovered. He seems to be doing well. Yesterday I finally got up the courage to tell him everything. He already knew something was wrong since Jack hadn't even once visited him after my talk with mother-in-law. Although father-in-law regularly checks up, mother-in-law never calls my husband, and if father-in-law pushes her to talk, then she just asks a few questions to make it seem like she's interested. When my husband found out that mother-in-law had come up with such a ridiculous plan, he even burst out laughing. Then he heard the recording I had, and I could see the pain behind his eyes. He told me that he had no idea that his own mother could have done something like this by going behind his back. He asked me why I didn't tell him sooner. But I told him how I first wanted him to recover, and he understood. Matt told me that we should definitely talk to his father since this was a grave matter. He expressed that what his mother had done was outright disgusting, and what his brother had done to me over the years was unforgivable. I was glad he shared my sentiment, and we have both agreed to talk to father-in-law tomorrow and tell him everything. I'm a bit nervous about how this will go, so wish me luck. Update 3. In just a week, I have managed to turn both Jack's and mother-in-law's lives upside down. When Matt finished talking to his father about everything, the first thing that father-in-law did was apologize to me for what his family had put me through. He told me that I was as much his daughter as Matt was his son, and that I should never have hesitated to tell him all this. He apologized on behalf of Jack and promised me that Jack would never dare bother me again. After the phone call, it turns out that father-in-law confronted Jack, who was cooped up in his room, and screamed at him. Father-in-law is a 6'2" army vet, so you can only imagine how fearsome he turns when he's angry. He ordered Jack to get out of their house when mother-in-law came to his rescue, and he gave his wife a scathing rebuke for her outrageous plan. Father-in-law told mother-in-law off. He told her how ashamed he was of her actions and that as a mother she should have taught Jack better than this. Yet she continued to allow him to turn into such a pervert. Mother-in-law started to cry, but father-in-law was not having it and asked her to get out with her son. Both mother and son are now homeless. They have sent me several messages in the past few days telling me what happened with father-in-law and how this was all my fault. They are living out of a motel currently. Mother-in-law has tried her best to reach out to father-in-law, who's given her an ultimatum that she should go to therapy to understand why she thought it was acceptable to encourage her son to pursue his brother's wife. Otherwise, she was not welcome back into his house. Jack did call Matt, asking for forgiveness, but Matt told him how disappointed he was to have a brother like him and warned him to never contact me again, or else he and I were going to pursue legal action of harassment against him. The news of the family drama has spread throughout relatives, and while some were shocked, others acknowledged that there had always been an underlying favoritism towards Jack from mother-in-law. Matt's extended family has offered support to me and my husband during this challenging time, and everyone agrees how weird it was for mother-in-law to do what she did. She's currently being shunned and taunted by everyone. I have also talked to my parents about this, and they are as weirded out about this as everyone else. I just want to move on from this incident and continue to live my life peacefully with my husband. I am grateful that father-in-law stood up for us and believed us. Choosing to cut ties with mother in law and Jack is the right decision, and my only desire is to proceed with living this wonderful life with my sweet husband by my side. Stay tuned for more stories from Argo Relationships.